morning, everybody. Let's get your paint on. Let's get your paint on Thursday with Josh.
Whoop, whoop.
Hello, everybody. This is Dallas. We're at Privateer Press. And this is Get Your Paint On. This is our weekly painting show where we paint stuff at Privateer Press. With me today is Mr. Josh Cologne. What's up, my man?
How you doing?
What's up, buddy?
I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
And on the soundboard, that's not a soundboard.
It's a mixer.
It's a mixer, not a soundboard, is Mr. John Swinkles. Hello, John.
Hi, everybody.
And we're painting Montauk buildings, and I'm going to discuss some philosophical, well, I just got emoji bombed by Gearbox Grinds. That's amazing. Is that a fox? Is that a little fox? I can't quite tell.
Or a red panda, maybe?
Maybe it's a red panda.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can't tell. So we're going to talk some philosophical stuff about painting buildings and kind of the approach to them while we're painting buildings. And then me and Josh will probably just ramble on about, I don't know, Alexia, Magnus. Get some stuff going on. Oh, it's a dwarf with an axe? That does not look like a dwarf.
Oh, that's awesome.
Looks like a red panda from my point of view.
When
you squint?
a little close and squint, I can see it.
If I squint, I see the panda.
I'll just pretend like it's a red panda.
Because red pandas are dope.
As an aside, if any of my fellow workers are listening, if anybody's got a bottle of Thamar Black, I forgot mine. Can you bring me a bottle of Thamar Black?
You did this last time too.
I did. So I'm gonna talk about some thoughts about painting buildings real quick, and then we'll get into some discussion about stories, because that's the part I truly love is stories. I love stories. So when you're painting the building, as you can see here, there's not a lot of shadow on these planes. A lot of times when you're painting stuff, you think about going from light to dark on each plane, or if you treat this whole facade as one plane going light from dark. To be perfectly honest, on these buildings, you don't really need to do that. There's very little shadow in these little corners there, little shadowy on this side. The big thing you want to worry, because when you think about light, if light's coming from there, right? Light's hitting this whole surface pretty equitably. So you don't need a lot of shadow. You don't need a lot of dramatic contrast from light to dark. But what you do want is other types of contrast. So that's what we're going to be playing with today. And I'll pull up another building in a moment to show you an example. But we're going to be playing with color contrast. So we'll be putting some yellows in on the tips, some browns, some blues, and we're going to keep them real subtle, real glazy, and that will create an overall more realistic look to my buildings. Let me pull this little short guy. So you can see here, this silo is not really shaded. I put a little shade down here, but it's mainly just different colors and a lot of weathering to give it a very dramatic look. But it's not a lot of light to dark. Same way with on the backside.
It looks more cool to warm.
Yeah, there's a lot of warm in the bottom. There's a little spot of blue right here that's really nice contrast, and it goes up to this like nice white. Then there's some greens and reds. But it's just playing with those colors, so I'm using the color as a contrast. You're my hero. Apparently Josh ran off and got me my coal black because no one's listening. I mean, I watch the dev hangouts. No one in dev is watching Get Your Paint On. Thanks, boys. There's not a lot of light to dark. It's more green to orange, red to the color, and I'm trying to maintain the entire facade. I think this little building shows it pretty good too.
Pagani just said, hi, Dallas.
Pagani's not here.
But he's in dev, and he's watching.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So this is all gray, and it's not really going light from dark, but there's a big splotch of green here. There's some green and yellows up here. There's some blues, stuff like that. There is a dramatic shadow here along this cooling tower, and on the underside of this lip, because I'm imagining light coming and getting blocked by that tower. So that's a shape that would create a effect. This is blue here and some orange. So you can see what I'm doing. It's just a lot of filtering. So let's shut up and paint.
That needs to be a t-shirt.
Shut up and paint.
That's actually a great slogan.
Quit thinking and just paint. I've actually had this conversation several times over the past couple weeks about overthinking the project.
And he just needs to have a picture of Dallas's face, like kind of like a bust shot,
Sure.
right? Shoulders up. Well, no, and he's making like the pointing gesture with brush A, but the other brush, as normal, is in his mouth.
In my mouth.
Right? So it's literally shut up and paint. That's how you two-brush blend.
That's right.
So it's like Uncle Sam, but Dallas. It's like Uncle Sam, like trying to get you to fight in the war, but instead of war, it's painting.
Get your paint on.
Paint is war.
War paint.
But I've had this conversation several times recently. It's about overthinking and why we overthink it and how to avoid overthinking. It's just people worry about messing up, and to me, there's no messing up. There's just learning experiences.
Fine art of fixing one's mistakes.
Yep. So I'm gonna put a little green down here. I like green at the bottom. Kind of represents some earthy tones and maybe like some of that moss or
Stuff that hasn't been pressure washed off yet.
yeah, it's just that stuff that's low to the ground, right? Earthy. It's that green that gets near the surface.
It could also just be a kind of a very subtle reflection of the light coming off nearby trees.
Something like that.
Right,
Anything.
Right.
Just a little green. So I saw whenever I first walked up here, you guys were already in here. You guys were looking at the Alexia. I don't know if I've talked about how much I love that model.
That model is so dope. But you have, yes.
It is amazing.
I think we all have.
It just looks like it came straight out of a Matt Wilson illustration, right? Like it's just a painting brought to life.
It's just alive. I'm gonna be working on her real soon, hopefully.
Oh wow.
I got a pretty big project involving her that I want to do.
Oh sure.
So like almost 6 years ago, I did a painting competition.
In the before PP time.
In the time before Privateer Press.
The pre-PP time.
Don't say pre-PP.
Pre-PP. Dallas is pre-PP time.
That's just awkward. I did a piece called "The Things We Do for Love," and it was in it for a painting competition, and I lost to the fantastic Chris Surrey.
Oh wow.
Who won?
He paints some stuff sometimes, yeah.
Yeah,
I think I've seen some things.
He won the Grandmaster at Gen Con 2 years ago. Not this year, but last year.
Last year, yeah.
With a really awesome Death Jack piece, which we were just talking about earlier too. Anyways, it's got the not original Iron Kingdoms version of Alexia, but the War Machine version of Alexia.
Oh sure.
Standing on a plinth, and there's like a little stairway going down into the plinth. And there's like skulls and stuff, and it just says, and then there's like a little parchment that says "The Things We Do for Love," kind of representing. Well, Josh, you get it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really dig it, and I like the skulls because that's just important to the theme of the character overall.
Yeah, the whole necromancy and I mean it's literally, just kind of a piece about like the kind of sacrifices we make for the ones we love.
Absolutely.
I want to do that again. I want to revisit that
That
but
theme.
with the new model.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. So kind of do like a companion piece a little bit.
Kind of like I don't want to say homage,
Sure.
because that's weird,
Sure.
but kind of I did this 6 years ago.
Right.
What can I do now? Kind
Right.
of thing, right?
No, that's awesome. It's kind of like you're responding to your own piece from 6 years ago.
Yeah, I mean the new model and like new abilities, like the leveling up of life
Right.
kind of thing.
And maybe where you're in a different place, obviously, where you were 6 years ago. So, what the things we do for love might mean something different to you now than it did back then.
That's accurate.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
I'm just looking for the right like plinth now. I've been on a search.
Sure.
And it's actually kind of fun. Like I said, I lost to Chris Surrey 6 years ago, and me and him are friends. And of course, now I'm like, what do you think of this plinth? What do you think of this plinth? He's like, it needs a tree. I'm like, are you sure it needs a tree?
But then we're going back to overthinking the project, right? Like,
well, I mean, you still got to plan the project,
sure,
right? If you saw the plinth I had, and
Right.
it was just too big, right?
right.
So planning out the project is still a very important aspect.
But you don't want to get frozen by.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's a problem. Analysis paralysis is
Analysis paralysis. Yeah.
not a good thing. So this is blood tracker brown. Wait. Yep.
I like the having to double check.
Striker 911 says, "Call it the things I did for love." That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's like because it still says the last piece happened. This is after.
Yeah, I like that. I like kind of that approach. So
Sorry, but anytime you can make a heart reference,
Of
you
course.
should make a
you should
heart
always
reference.
make a heart reference. So big thing about buildings are dirty. So don't be afraid to put a
A little funk on it.
little funk. I'm gonna put a little stank on this building. Using the blood tracker brown to kind of tint some of these corners and nooks and crannies. The other cool thing is if you are still learning two brush blending and you're like, man, I keep getting bathtub rings, use those bathtub rings to your advantage while painting buildings. Watch
Because
this.
that's all kind of rust and grime.
I'm going to wet this area and then I'm going to go
Gritty, grimy, grungy green.
put some little dots and then tap them. And now I got spots. A little this. Boop, boop. Those are two symmetrical, so break them up. Unperfect blends creates
Weathered effects.
weathered effects.
Weathered effects.
So, yeah,
So something else that's
what I'm doing.
kind of cool that you and I and some other people are doing is we have a whole bunch of submissions for the Formula P3 My Monster coloring thing that we did. So now we get to go through all of those and then pick our favorite, and you're gonna paint that dude.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people on Facebook asking when that's going to be announced, and I guess
We have a lot to go through, so I'd probably
Yeah.
say don't expect an announcement for like a week or two.
yeah, there's a lot of submissions. We're going to narrow them down,
And a lot of good
To
ones at that.
10,
Like, yeah.
and then I think should we post the top 10?
Yeah, we'll post the
That's
top
cool.
10.
Post
and
the top
we're
10,
gonna
then
take
we'll narrow it down to 3.
That's
Yep.
great.
And then we'll pull our crack team of color theory experts. It was just me and a bottle of gin,
Sure.
And Ron Cruzy and his bear.
Ron Cruzy and his bear,
Mishka.
and we'll go through the top 3 and pick the top 1.
And then Dallas is gonna paint that son of a bitch up.
I'm gonna
and we're gonna talk about like some of the other cool things that we saw in the entries and basically encourage people to paint those.
I've seen some of those, and they're just so fun, really imaginative.
And people did some very subtle, simple things
Yeah.
that looked really great, and then
Right.
some people did some super outlandish things that also look really good.
Yeah.
Picking a favorite is actually going to be really difficult on this one.
So, did you see the Gorgaja I was painting at Lock and Load?
The one with the pink.
No, it's teal. It's arcane blue
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
silver.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm not saying if you may entered an arcane blue and silver Grogadra, you're gonna win, but you might.
So,
Because I'll be easy.
And I'll help your odds.
No, I'm not helping you in any way. I'm pretty sure the top 10 is going to include nothing but like, dear God, look at all this freehand work I'm gonna have to do. That's not true. And subtle, crazy, it's all being looked at because, like I said, tons of submissions. If you made a post and you put the hashtag FP3MyMonster and that post is dated before September 1st, so no cheating, but you forgot to make it public or you forgot to make sure that we could see it, go fix that.
Fix
Right.
it. Right
Put
now.
hashtag FP3MyMonster on it and make sure it's set to public if it's on Facebook or anywhere else that, like, you know, you have your privacy settings correctly.
Right. Right.
So Josh, you said you also said you were reading something.
Yeah.
Speaking of story.
Yeah, I've been. It actually ties into some of the stuff we've been talking about. I've been rereading Doug Seacat's great novel, The Blood of Kings, rereading it for like the third time or whatever, and just having a blast. And I found a couple of people on Twitter that were also reading it for like the first time. They're kind of getting into our lore and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like,
It's a really good starting point.
it is, well, it is, yeah. Because it's kind of like the end of the first saga, the beginning of everything that's new.
Right, because after that you get into all the Acts of War stuff.
Exactly, exactly. And so it was interesting because so a couple of people hit me up on Twitter and they were like, it asked me about Cain and all the the main characters, but the one that I got asked about a lot was Magnus.
Well,
right?
yeah, because
And his story is very central to
and Magnus is dope.
exactly, and Magnus is amazing.
Is he?
And well, okay, so
He's a magnificent bastard.
So yes, but so people hadn't read like the entirety of the old classic like Mark I stuff, so they were kind of asking about his motivation. They're like, so what's his deal? Like, why is he like after Ventur? You know, like what is it? Just like ambition? Like what was it? And so I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that.
You
And-
nerded out on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I did nerd out on it. I mean, I didn't go full Doug Seacat on it, but I definitely
Never go full sea.
never go for
Unless
Seacat
you're Doug Seacat.
unless you're Doug
Then
Seacat.
absolutely do go for
Right. But it kind of ties into what Daz was saying about the things we do for love, right?
Right.
Because Magnus was like super loyal and devoted to Ventur Railthorn, the former king of Signar, like from the beginning. That was
Emphasis on former.
yeah, well, yeah, emphasis on former. But I mean, his first iteration, Magnus the Traitor, didn't refer to him betraying it referred to him betraying Signar as it stood, but by being loyal to Ventur, right? So the reason why he was a mercenary, the reason why he was injured, the reason why he did everything he did was to try and bring back Ventur, right?
Put him back on the throne.
Exactly. And I mean, he was like one of the most, probably the most loyal of his loyalists, right? Sacrificing everything for him for I mean, the better part of his life, the best years of his life, right?
Sure.
And
His prime.
his prime, if you will.
That's a private tip keyword.
But then
Dallas is just shaking.
he's just shaking his head. He's just shaking his head. So everything he did for love. But then in Hordes Evolution, you come to find out that Magnus gets captured by the Scorn and tortured for information. And Magnus is like, why are you torturing me? Because Ventur Railthorn, spoiler alert for a 10-year-old story, he led the Scorn. He led the Scorn. They were under his command. Like he's like, why are you torturing me? Like when Ventur hears that you're torturing his most loyal subject, he's he'll get you guys. And then sure enough, Magnus comes to find out it was under Ventur's orders, right? And it was just this giant betrayal. So just imagine giving your life, your decades of your life, right, the best years of your life to this ideal, to this man that you loved and admired, and you sacrificed everything for, and then just discovering that he like didn't care anything about you, that he could just kind of like discard you at a whim, right? And like all the work that you did and all the sacrifice you did was for nothing. Like I think that's a really solid and honestly understandable motivation, right?
Yeah.
To go ahead and say, okay, well, screw you, I'm gonna go do my own thing, like, right? Like it was heartbreaking for Magnus, right? And so everything that he does afterwards and leading up to Blood of Kings was because of that betrayal, right? And so I don't know how much, I don't want to pick up the book, 'cause it's great, it's fantastic, it's written by Seacat, but what the things we do for love definitely like is a huge part of the story, and I mean literally it changes the landscape of nations, right?
Yep.
And it all leads to that one moment of Magnus being like, oh my god, like kind of the life that I've been leading was kind of a lie. This sacrifice I've been making was kind of for nothing. And yeah, so he's awesome. Magnus is amazing.
Magnus is dope.
Philosophically, nothing is for nothing.
Oh, I think that's true. Well, and he would actually be the first person to agree with you, right? Because then, I mean, this isn't really a spoiler because it starts off the book with this, but he finds Ventur's bastard son, the secret heir, Julius Railthorn, the heir to the throne, and so he decides, okay, well, I've been betrayed. I have nothing, left with this king. I'm gonna basically become a kingmaker, and he goes out of his way to try and raise Ventur's secret son to the throne. So you're right, Dallas, right? Like Magnus probably said, well, I lost X amount of years of my life, but I'm making the best of it.
Every new beginning is some other beginning's end.
Oh my God, that sounds like a song. Oh my God.
I don't feel so bad for my interjection now.
You don't have to feel bad. It's just it doesn't matter if it's a
Cheesy song or not.
cheesy song or not. It's still true. That's why cheesy songs exist. Cheesy songs exist because they tell truth.
Right.
And
Like
it
that-
looks like you were just adding some blue in there.
Oh, dude, this is just color. This is this color.
What was the blue to bring it back to more of a concrete tone, or like what? Give me the thinking behind it.
Blue exists in shadows. So
Okay.
I'm kind of putting a very subtle shadow by adding some very minute hints of blue.
Are you doing this? Are you basically painting with like the saturation, not mixing the value, not changing like how dark or light it is? You're just adding color to it.
Just color.
Got it.
Everything is color on this. Because
Got
you
it.
don't want that light to dark. You just want color to suggest where light falls.
Right.
Like it doesn't take much either. Like this is looking more realistic, right? You guys can see it.
Yeah,
'cause you're
absolutely.
It's just looking more gritty and realistic. And then of course I go and paint these doors like solid black, and then they'll be glass. I'll make them look glass. I don't know what I want to do with these. I kind of want to make these windows, but I kind of also like them as like concrete insets.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little torn.
That's what they look like to me by default. So I mean, you could
I think they can go either
really
way.
go either way.
Yeah. I want to put a little brown in those to kind of indicate.
Like if they were windows, it makes me think like the first floor of that building is like a convention center or like like a plaza, so to
Right.
speak.
Right.
Like there's kind of like a shopping arcade in there or something.
But you're right, Dallas. Like a little bit of the saturated color really makes it pop, but if you don't change the value, it still keeps it consistent, right? Like it still keeps
Right.
it like realistic.
Well, I mean, we on our walk yesterday, we were actually discussing the philosophical like color theory of buildings, and like we were looking at buildings around us on our walk, and you could see there's one particular building that has like I think 4 different faceted angles of the one facade, and we were looking at that. This is a mix of Blood Tracker and Exile Blue. We were looking at that, and each facet was equitably lit,
Mm-hmm.
and they were only slightly different shades.
Interesting.
So they were all facing the sun, but from
Right.
different angles.
Right.
So they were all equitably lit, but just slightly different.
So they were refracting the light.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, but you could also, if you train your eye, you can see different colors in a single color.
Right.
Like you can learn how to do that.
Right.
And you could see like the little bit of green and the little bit of red from like where a drain pipe had started to stain
Right.
one area. And
Right.
so just playing with those large, broad color philosophy, you can make a really cool looking building with very minimal effort.
And it's important. I mean, not to get too artsy fartsy, but it's important to study from life, right? Like even your miniatures
Oh,
painters,
yeah.
you can look at, like you just did, kind of look at your surroundings and get ideas about how light fall off works and how how colors mix and all that stuff.
And it's astounding when I talk to people at conventions, and I express to them how much reference I use, and some people are very surprised.
In the studio, it is amazing, right? Like in the
Yeah.
studio, like whether it's our in-house sculptors, like digital sculptors, or you painters, because obviously, like for like concept art and illustration, you expect a certain amount of reference. But like one of the things I learned very quickly working in the studio for the last 7 months has been like, oh my god, like everyone that does any kind of art thing references, right?
Yeah. When I painted different war beast, right? You paint a war beast, the Storm Raptor, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a made-up monster.
Right.
I still looked at like 5 different birds and had them up on my screen during the painting process,
Oh, looking at the feathers. And,
Mhm.
oh, that's so interesting.
and like just how to approach them and stuff like that. We use a lot of reference. I like reference. I take a lot of reference pictures with my phone too.
So if you look like library of reference to access.
Yeah, and I mean, even if I just share it on Facebook, a lot of times, even if I share something on Facebook, I actually message myself. So I have a message to myself on Facebook. It's just nothing but a collection of like, "Hey Dallas, look at this,"
Yeah.
for later. I think my favorite one I ever found when I first moved up here, we were driving around. I'm doing real fast blends, so this brush is going in and out of my mouth. When we first moved up here, we were driving around Mount Rainier, and there was this little mine cart at this restaurant we stopped at to grab a bite to eat. And this little mine cart was just the most beat up, rusted, chip paint thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I fell in love with it. So I took like 5 pictures of it and like just kept it as like a reference of how things look when they're all beat up and rusty.
And like weathered and stuff. That's great. So do you find yourself, because a lot of
I found myself a long time ago, Josh.
oh,
Thanks.
did you though?
Thanks, buddy.
But I feel that a lot of people are starting out, even like young professionals, they feel like the more experience I get, the less reference I use. But did you find it's like the opposite for you a little bit?
It's the opposite.
Yeah, you're using more the more experience you get.
Absolutely. In my opinion, yes. The more the more experience I become, the more reference I want to use. You know, when I first started paint managers, I was a little too blue, but it's fine. I'll put a little bit of that blood tracker back in there. I just want some dirt in these corners, so it makes the blue in there, it makes more of a shade. There we go. When I first started paint managers, it was just paint a miniature.
Right.
Or it was just
Right.
paint the, paint the whatever. And now it's like, well, now I want to paint something, and I want it to look more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, not all the time. So I use way more reference now.
But like, the more experience you get, the more you realize how to implement reference the best, right? Like how to pick out what you need.
I think that's what it is too. It's like learning how you're using reference. It's not just like, well, I have
being
reference.
a slave to it. You don't want to be a slave to
Right.
reference. Wow.
That's a very very astute. Not being a slave to the reference, but it's just like learning what is important in the reference.
Right. Knowing what to leave out, what to keep in.
Mm-hmm.
That's excellent.
Especially for different projects, right?
Sure.
You might be looking at a project and you're like, well, this is based on the thing I'm painting. And then you're like, well, but I don't need this part. How do I leave that out? How do I implement this paint job without that part of the real life thing?
Right. Right.
Trust me, if I do this Alexia bit, it'll be a lot of references and how to get that model to look the way I want it. Because in my head, I'm seeing it.
Right.
I mean, we all see stuff in our heads, but sometimes you gotta find. I mean, not sometimes. I prefer finding things that's like in real life that kind of represents it, so I have a little bit better visual guide.
And then Dallas Riker has literally your favorite question.
How do you break a painting block slump feel like what I'm doing is getting stale. Any suggestions on finding something new to re-inspire? Riker, for me, a painting slump is nothing but me being lazy. That's just for me. You got to get up. You got to put the brush, you put the pen to the paper.
I've also heard you say, Dallas, and I thought was really inspiring, honestly, like, because, this question comes up a lot.
There's no muse.
Well, not just that, but also the idea that, like, sometimes when you're in a slump, it's like if you learn something new, right? Like, even if it's a simple new technique or something, that sometimes is enough to excite you to try it and to start experimenting with stuff.
Yeah, new techniques always good. Or like, I've never painted a Legion monster.
Right. Challenging yourself.
I'm scared of painting yellow or white armor. I've never trying to paint something in a unique way. I once painted a what's his name, the Thamorite guy.
Oh, the Ragman?
Ragman. I once painted Ragman all in stippling.
Oh, that's
basically,
awesome.
basically like a experiment in pointillism.
Right.
Like if you want to.
Right.
But it was all stippled.
That's awesome.
Painting a bust, right? Grab a Sorsha bust and paint her like
Fifth Border Legion.
like a Van Gogh, right?
Yeah. Like, just challenging yourself, right? Like, challenging yourself, pushing yourself,
Finding something you've never done.
getting a little uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or go back and paint some. Go back and paint something you have painted before, right? Like, oh man, I painted Death Jack a long time ago, and now I'm in a paint slump. Okay, so get the new Death Jack,
Right.
bust that sucker out,
Right.
update it, like fall in love with that thing again,
Exactly.
with new techniques and new abilities that you
Exactly.
didn't have. How old is the Death Jack? 10 years now?
Yeah, 13. Yeah.
13 years old?
The original Jet Jack, 2005.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you? Is that
I
accurate?
swear. Yes.
2005.
Apotheosis came out 2005.
The ability Josh has to pull that stuff off the top of his head is always amazing.
That's the original Jet, and then we just released.
Do you want to go to Vegas?
counting cards? But we released a resculpt a year ago? Is that
Yeah.
right?
A little under, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Is like you can take that.
I bought 3.
You can take
Nice.
that old thing that you love, right? Like for me, like Zerkova, right? I painted an old Zerkova. Like if I was in a paint slump right now, I'd be like, I'm just going to get Zerkova again,
Right.
maybe do a conversion, and paint her up, and,
Right.
and be like, remember that time when I was just like, oh my God, Zerkova's like the coolest thing in the world.
It's funny that, we were talking about Alexia earlier because Alexia is that for me.
Right.
Like every time like I'm either in a slump or I haven't painted in a long while or whatever, I always bust out an Alexia model. Whether it's like like the standard 1 or 2 or whatever, right?
Right.
They're pretty easy to get your hands on.
Right.
And then this new mini crate model that I'm like, oh, I can't wait because she's always been my benchmark. Like,
Yeah.
as far as where I'm at painting.
Right.
So exactly. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't agree with Dallas more.
Yeah.
Just get in there and just try something new. Just paint something old. Do something fun. Riker, I know you're also a commission painter. Don't do a commission. Right? Do something different.
Do something for you.
Monpoc. Holy cow, Monpoc. There's nothing like Monpoc in the world.
Right. That's true.
Like you want to get out of a painting slump.
As far as minis are concerned, yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're goddamn, they're great.
Yeah, you just grab look, I'm a big dinosaur. Like there's nothing like this, and like this is exciting to paint, and you can do something really fun. These buildings, they're like a never not fun to paint little structure. Coal black, where's it at? Here it is.
Yeah, I can't wait for those Martians.
Oh, dude, I know, man.
Between the Martian Menace and the Shadow
Me
Syndicate,
too. Those are my
I'm
two.
like,
Those are my two right there.
they are my jam, my peanut butter, and the bread that holds it all together. Like that Ares mothership sculpt.
Oh God, it looks so good in person.
I've never been a Martian person, but I will totally admit to coveting that area's mothership.
It's so
It's
good.
so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's like, man, I don't have time to do both protectors and defenders.
Sure.
But it's like I'm a little jealous because I don't get to do
You mean protectors and destroyers?
protectors and destroyers. I'm going to turn this up like this. Deal with it.
Oh, there you go, record. Brugrosh.
Brugosh had a great one.
Well, especially because like if you're gonna get regular Thugrosh when he comes out,
Right.
Brugrosh is perfect for like doing like the. But what if I did it this way?
That's right.
Or your hyper form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of little ways. I'm too blue collar for that question, really, because I'm like, shut up and paint.
It goes right back to the T-shirt.
Shut up and paint. Like when 7 o'clock rolls around, it's time to put on the headphones, pull out the brushes,
Get your paint on.
pick out the miniature,
Get some music going.
and paint that miniature.
That's right.
It don't get done if you wait for the muse. The muse is just another way to say I'm lazy. A muse is just what is it? Procrastination. That's what waiting for the muse. That's just procrastination.
Procrastination.
So one of the other things that like
And we know
is
I'm not a
kind of
procrastinator.
the very common sayings that kind of overlaps all of this is constraint breeds creativity.
Oh yeah.
Give yourself like a literal challenge.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Like going back to how Dallas was mentioning that like he'll grab a Zerkova model, right?
Right. And do stippling
Right.
or whatever. Yeah.
And do the stippling or whatever. That's a constraint you put on yourself,
Yep.
so it engages your brain into go, okay, how do I do this way? I've never done it before.
Right.
Alternately, like busts are a perfect example. Like we made Dallas do that orca bust in an hour that we gave away.
Yep.
Oh yeah. I
Right.
remember that.
Right. So give yourself a challenge.
Right.
Especially
Right.
like if it can be practiced for something later, like if it can be practiced for like an iron painter or what have you.
Absolutely.
There's I like constraints. I like saying, okay, I'm going to paint this thing and I'm only going to use 4 colors, 5 colors, right? Or if you're really wanting a challenge and really wanting to learn colors, red, yellow, blue, black, white, Borka bust, go. And then make it look like a studio model.
Right.
Because you can.
The classic approach to painting.
Yep. Red, yellow, blue, black, white, get it done.
Mix them all.
So what would you like? Exile blue, Cygnus yellow, Iozan green, or which green would you use?
I would use Signar blue base.
Okay.
I would use Cygnus yellow and Kador red base.
Would you use a green, or would you, since you
No.
have the yellow and the blue, you
As a
Yellow and
secondary.
blue.
So yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
but
it's just your 3 primaries, white and black.
So Thamar black and Mara white.
Thamar black, Mara white.
Okay.
I personally like to also add. I've done this challenge before. I like adding umbral umber in
Oh, it's so good.
because it adds an umber. You can
Interesting.
make an umber,
Interesting.
but it just gives me automatic umber.
Interesting.
It is a shortcut,
Sure.
but umber is so useful for all your mixes, and it is a mix of your.
Well, and it's
It's a
good,
mix
it's
of red-
It's a good unification as well, right? It's a good thing to bring the whole piece together by including it in various.
Well, I mean, it already exists in those colors.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
black, red, and blue, with some yellow. All those colors make umber. I'm just shortcutting. I'm just lazy.
I like how like 3 minutes ago you're like, stop being lazy, and then it cuts down. It's like, "No, I'm just being lazy.
I'm being lazy. I can be lazy sometimes.
The cheesy grin on he's got on his face
Yeah.
right now is pretty good.
He knows. It's like he knows he got caught somehow. It's really funny.
I've had my hand in cookie jars before.
So if Dallas, if Magnus is not your favorite Merc, I feel like a Drake McBain is like your spirit animal a little
No.
bit, like because you talk about being blue collar, he is the most blue collar of all
No,
the
no.
mercenaries.
Maxwell Finn.
Oh
I
my
realize
god!
he's not a mercenary.
Oh
but-
sure, yeah. Oh,
but
well, because Maxwell Finn will do whatever it takes to get the job done, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. But Drake McBain is the most blue collar when it
He
comes
is.
to yeah.
he is a very much a paragon of that.
Exactly.
Of that style.
You pay me, I'll get the job done. You don't pay me, I'll just go to the next guy.
Yeah, I'm here to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Got a job to do. You ain't paying me? I'm out.
I'll find someone who will.
So who's your favorite Merc Warcaster then, Dallas?
Merc Warcaster?
Story-wise, right.
Story. I don't know about story. My favorite Merc Warcaster is actually Fiona.
Fiona
Black.
Black. Yeah, she's great. She's great.
Kind of story-wise, because, like, I don't know, maybe I'm a Thamurite.
Maybe.
Oh my God, the look on your face is magic right now.
Well, like
I've
understatement
never
of
seen you turn
understatements.
red in anger.
I'm so maybe you're a Thamurite. Maybe.
Do you think I'm a Thamurite? I'm totally a
I
Thamurite.
know you're a Thamurite. Are you kidding me? Oh my, like freedom and independence and like being all about like self like reliance. Yes.
I think I've painted 2 Fiona the Blacks.
Well, there was the original, and then we did a resculpt
Yeah.
of her. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Painted 2 of her. Painted 3 Alexias. The regular one.
Right.
I actually haven't painted my Alexia 2 yet.
Got it.
Kind of the worst. Just
Got it.
because.
Horsey Alexia.
Yeah, I'm also lazy. I hate painting horses.
I like how
So like
frustrated
that's why I
you
like
are.
the
Yeah.
I like the
That was amazing.
that's why I like the storm lances.
Ah,
It's
sure.
because there's so much armor on those horses. I
Right.
can just like base coat, dry brush, highlight the horse parts, and the rest is armor.
They're basically armor with little horse legs coming out.
Horse
the
legs and a
bottom.
horse belly.
Yeah, that's true.
Trying to think of the one that I've painted the most of outside of Alexia. As far as mercs go, my favorite, like my absolute favorite, like item isn't actually a Warcaster. It's a unit.
Okay, what is it?
It's the first unit box I ever bought.
Devil Dogs.
Crow's Cutthroats.
Coats. Oh, you can't go wrong with Chara Crow and his Cutthroats, man. They're awesome.
I love those models. I hadn't really seen anything like those guys in miniatures before.
Right.
And those models like so fantastically captured like just that sinister, slimy.
Sure, they're henchmen, right?
Oh
they're,
yeah,
they're
they're
like
the epitome of henchmen.
and I mean, it goes back to Magnus, right? Magnus uses them
Absolutely.
in Blood of
Yeah.
you know, we're going back to Blood of Kings. Bam, full circle. Bam, pay me. Boom. Done.
Sam McCorn Devil Dogs. Sam is my
Sam
McCorn.
McCorn.
is,
Yeah.
Again, another fantastic character. Like
Sam is my jam.
But as far as like my favorite character to paint right now, and I've done 2 of her junior, 1 of her new one, and Dallas is probably gonna hate me, but I love Jake's.
Yee.
I love painting
That,
Jake's.
talk about challenges, right?
Right.
Like
It always reminds me of Jinx from League of Legends. I'm wearing lots of
yeah,
belts.
lots of buckles. Lots of buckles.
But I cheat, right? But I always try to find a different way to use a technique to like get those done, right? So whether or not I start with like a metallic dry brush and then paint over it, or whether or not I pick those out later as highlights, right? I always try to do it a different way just to see what looks better.
Right.
And she's just fun to paint.
It's funny because one of my favorite models that I've ever painted, and I don't paint a lot, but one of my favorite ones was Tristan Durant. Who's also another. He's got those big flat shapes and all those big circles and whatever. Like, he's great. Like, I think he's really, really fun.
I'm not gonna lie. I hope we do a version of him based off the cover of God.
Oh yeah. Another book. See, look at that. Another. Look at that. Cross promoting and everything. It's like we're professionals.
Those are called professional segues.
Segways. Oh my god.
Transitions, depending on what
Transitioning.
you wanna call it.
Yeah.
You seen my Tristan Durant, right, Josh?
No.
For P3 Grandmaster,
No, I don't think I have.
2014.
So this was the junior. Obviously, yeah, it was the junior. The junior one. That's great.
Yeah, it was the video game.
Yeah,
version.
the tactics one.
The tactics version.
That's awesome.
Oh,
It's
Riker.
on a.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say Riker's brought up a great one that's a recent model, the Totem Huntress.
See, okay, now we're gonna talk about what might be one of the best models we've ever done, and that's the Totem Huntress.
I would have said hands
Just-
down that's the best model we've ever made until we did this.
And to the next, I was gonna say that, like, it's just fantastic. She's just so powerful and so much personality, and her anatomy. Oh, she's just amazing.
Anino J mentions Malachus.
Malachus
Malachus
is great. Malachus is
'Cause
great.
he has a lot of elements to him that aren't common
Right.
in Protectorate.
Right.
But then he's got some that really are,
Right.
but in fun different ways, like his book, the
Right.
chains,
Right.
his mask,
Right.
his girth.
Right, yeah, his belly, yeah,
Right.
yeah, he's fantastic. Now I'm gonna talk about Protectorate, Malachus or Tristan around Dallas. Like, I'm just gonna paint him like a Graham kid and make Josh mad. I saw that Harbinger live stream for a while ago. That I'm still not very happy with it. I'm still kind of upset at the blasphemy. But whatever. Who cares what I think? Dallas. I'm staring daggers at you right now. Blasphemy.
Dallas is like, I do what I want.
Blasphemy. I hate it.
So it looks like you went in with some blue and some highlights to give the front doors a more glass look. Is that what you're going for? Or
I forgot what I grabbed.
I'm just saying the shadows are pretty deep, so I'm just curious what effect your end goal is.
Yeah, we'll make them look like glass.
Yeah, whenever you do buildings and stuff like that, and like it's color soup, so to speak, I don't even bother trying to bring them up on screen because they change so fast and so furiously.
Color
But
soup.
it's more about the theory.
Sure.
Right? You know, so
sure.
he talks about like adding blue to it and stuff. And
Right.
the reality is like we could give you a recipe, or you can go try.
Yeah, there's
stuff.
no recipe. Like on the table, I got Menoth White highlight, Crixbane highlight, Coal Black, Thamar Black, Cato Red base, Ordic Olive, Moldy Ochre, Exile Blue, Blood Tracker Brown, and then the ones I just pulled open, Frostbite. The ones I haven't pulled open and I didn't actually use, I guess I won't talk about.
Because you're not using them.
Trader Green, Battlefield Brown, Crixbane base, Umbra Lumber, all good colors to do. So I'm going to do a little mix of Coal Black, Frostbite, highlight my doors.
Striker 911 brings up a good question. Speaking of Harvey, when will Summer Rampage conversion contest stuff go up? Had to postpone that for a little bit, so I don't have a new date just yet. But want to do it, just timing's got to work out. And there's lots of projects in the hopper.
Lots of projects.
I got transfixed by watching him do his highlights.
Mm-hmm.
And these don't have to be perfect.
Well, no, they're little.
They're little tiny doors and they're glass, so you can kind of get away with some real wishy-washy look. So not perfectly blended by any stretch of the imagination.
No, because it just has to give you the idea,
And
right?
it works
Just
out.
when they're that little of a detail.
It works out to your advantage to not perfect blend them because it gives the impression of like lots of different angles of light and the way light's reflecting off the glass. I do want a couple of little streaks and stuff down toward the bottom. Just kind of blur that. And those shadows might be a little dark, but it'll be fine.
So the color that you've got going on this building, and just basically the basic shape and geometry that's on this particular building, makes me think of the old Amazon building that's up on Beacon Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Folks not from around Seattle probably won't know what I'm talking about, but like it's a super old hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got like that. It's got that weird kind of like Art Deco Gothic culture, like architecture to it. It's
Sure.
really weird to explain. But if you
Sure.
like do a Google image search for old Amazon building, the colors that are going on here totally looks like that.
I'm gonna do like a little splash. What? Not like that. Get rid of that.
What?
There we go. Do like a little cross highlight, like light reflecting. Second brush is really good at tidying up little tiny lines, actually.
So Dallas, this is the building that I was talking about.
Yeah, a little more red there, but I see it.
Well, and that's also, time of day.
All right, now I got little glass doors.
It's like the closest thing Seattle has to a castle.
Not sure it needs anything. I don't think this building needs anything else. I'm pretty happy with this next to this. Yeah, overall it feels pretty good. Now, when you guys were talking, I added some yellow on these corners and these edges to kind of represent more light coming from that way. Kind of shows the sun coming from that way.
Yeah.
And just yellow at the top. It's kind of like faces. Faces have zones. The forehead's yellow. The eye, nose is red. And the jaw, lip is blue. You can kind of do the same thing on buildings. As you can see, I actually did it, right? It's like the blues and the greens. And the browns kind of got put on the top plates. And then yellow got on those corners. So it's kind of philosophically the same. I'm going to pull this off. And all my tape while we're at it. Let's do this metal monstrosity.
So that just looks like it's primed and then just a dry brush of metal?
Cold
iron?
Dry brushed
Cold
metal.
steel, I mean?
Dry brushed metal.
Little zenithal.
Cold steel, and then airbrushed blue, and then it needs to be dry brushed again. But I want to put some colors in there first before I dry brush the metal back in. So we're going to do the same kind of stuff. I'm going to use some blood tracker brown and all that.
So the previous building that you had up there, what is that one called?
Oh, this is the downtown high rise. This is corporate HQ.
Right. So for people that are curious, the Crush Hour Prize Support, the PPHQ building,
Right.
this is the non-alternate sculpt. So this is the one that anyone can just go buy. The PPHQ is the one you can win in Crush Hour.
Got it.
Win that HQ.
And you can win it as many times as you find places that are running it. So
Right.
you can replace all your corporate HQs or just a couple.
It's
But
true.
same rules as this guy.
Oh, what I do? I didn't want to do that. I want some, a little bit of red in there, maybe. A little bit of blue.
It's got some Smith Tower architecture to it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I live in Seattle, so I'm going to find comparisons to buildings here, but
Right.
obviously the source material for these is rather varied. Which just goes back to references.
Right.
Oh yeah, these were all based off several buildings kind of collected together.
Merged.
I'm just gonna put some,
But you see what I'm saying about the old Amazon
Right.
building and
some brown around these edges.
And why are you adding the brown around the edges?
Dirt.
Dirt.
That's where dirt collects, in the corners and the crevices, the nooks and crannies. I'm trying to pull off a little yellow on this. It's just gonna have to be real subtle, because it'll look kind of weird if I do it wrong.
Well, it's just a learning experience.
I mean, if I screw it up, I just screw it up.
I want that one.
It's not a big deal at all. It's just a little building. Just a little dude to play with.
Little dude.
Just some of that yellow sun reflecting. Especially since this is such a stark metallic thing, it needs some warm. So making some areas of that metal warm will help out.
And are you giving the, so it's a trick to keep the paint thin enough where the colors underneath still show?
Yeah, it's super translucent.
Got it.
Like just, I'm two brush blending a glaze.
Well, and with all the windows on that building, right? A lot of things are going to be reflected in the windows, from the windows, right? So you can play with all kinds of color.
Right.
You can decide
Right.
what's around that building,
Right.
and then bring elements of that into it.
Right.
I think that's cool.
That is
That's
awesome.
why I like It's one of the things I really like about the Monsterpocalypse minis, not just the monsters, but the buildings themselves. Is
Right.
there's a lot of room to play with so many different things.
It's true. What's your favorite aspect of painting these buildings, Dallas?
Getting them done.
Well, that's his favorite color.
Of course.
Like, it's just fun to experiment with, like, this different philosophical, like, avenue toward painting, right? I'm not worried about individual shadows creating a life. I'm worried more about colors creating life. And even though it's a building, I want to create life. I want it to feel like you could walk up to it to some extent. I mean, it's a little building, of course, and that's all. It's a little building, but you know, you want to give it a little. You want to give it a little presence and a little love. So I like that. A little brown down here. It's like moldy ochre, blood trucker brown. I think with a touch of Exile blue, kind of showing that ground. Also like dirty buildings, so. Now, of course, I won't put this color on this tower because it wouldn't make sense. But down along this bottom edge where it's touching the ground,
Right.
that's where this color makes sense. And of course, all these, well, it still needs dry brushed, and some of that will still linger there.
Earthquake.
Well, and you can have a lot of fun with the roofs of these buildings, because who knows what kind of stuff is growing on the edges up there.
Yeah, and also, I mean, doing like freehand helicopter pads and stuff like that would be really cool to do. Stuff like that's always fun. I might do a little helipad on this one. I don't know.
Just for funsies.
We'll see what happens.
Well, and you could also take like a little, like a little cutout square of plastic card, so it looks like it's raised up a little bit.
Yeah, you could do like a little raised one. That'd be pretty cool too.
Well, and it wouldn't take much. Like, I don't even think you need to do anything underneath it.
No, yeah, I mean,
Just a scale.
yeah, you would. I think you would put like a little piece underneath it to lift it, like a little.
But just a smaller square.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you don't have to
But
go
the thing
too
would be,
detailed.
I definitely want stairs on it.
Sure.
So those could be tricky, but I would want stairs on it.
Yeah, because that scale's really tiny.
It was real little.
But you could also do that with the smaller piece of plastic card underneath. A little lip could be sticking out that is the little staircase.
Sure.
Like a little tabby that comes out past the...
It might work.
And
Be
then
some
you could just
experiment
use
with.
the edge of your hobby knife and like kind of cut like little jagged steps into it. I can see how to do it.
You should make one.
I'm gonna.
You got
Because
you.
I have one of these. You gave me one of these guys, so I think I'm gonna make a little helipad for
Yeah, let's see you make one. You got a plan.
Yep.
Execute it.
Because a plan means nothing if you don't do it.
True.
Darn tootin'.
I hear a lot of plans.
Ideas and plans are a dime a dozen. Execution is worth its weight in gold.
Fact. Congo the what? Jormangadang
Congo the Jormungand.
says every skyscraper needs a helipad. How will the totally not evil CEO of a not evil company get to work? Accurate.
And I imagine in the PPHQ it actually goes into one of the eye holes. Like that opens up and like, because evil lair. And
Right.
there's a skull right there.
Right. That's true.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
All right, looks like it's 11 o'clock, and this needs dry brushed, and I didn't bring my dry brush.
Just about lunchtime. Yeah, but we got real far on that guy. That's
This is done.
yeah, that's
I'm
Yeah, that's
calling
great.
it.
stick that guy on a like. You don't even need bases for him because he's
Well, this one doesn't come with base
yeah, because he's
because he's
the appropriate size. On
he's
the
he's a big boy. He's thick with 3 thieves. But I'm gonna base mine. I just didn't yet, weirdly. I don't know what I'm doing. This will get based. I'll base mine. But I'm calling this one done. And this one just needs a dry brush and then paint the windows, and this will be done. And then I think all I got left is my skyscraper, which won't fit on the screen.
That's a big boy.
And this one I'll approach the same way. I'll just be the different colors, but I'll keep all this concrete like just the way it is. It's got kind of a heavy shade there, but it's not super dramatic. But it'll just be a matter of adding colors to this and picking out the little doors and maybe this.
Yeah, it looks like it needs to be like a sign.
Yeah.
Like the name of the building or something.
I need to put more signage on some of these. Like this guy has like a little, I feel like that needs to say something on that little blue panel. God,
like what they make there.
Yeah.
I love that building, by the way.
You know
like
what?
Just
Hang on.
that model specifically, like there's, even before painted, it's got a crap ton of character. And then as soon as you add paint, like the character just comes out.
Right.
It's kind of like Michelangelo was talking about, like the sculpture's already in the marble. He just chips away everything that isn't the sculpture.
Right.
This model has a ton of character in it. And all you're really doing is, when you paint it, is just picking it out.
Right.
Congo the Jormungand says Kemp Tower or Kemp Heights for the skyscraper.
I don't like using my name on stuff.
Abracadalis.
No, this feels too narcissistic.
So then put your friend's name on it. Cologne Tower. Nailed it.
Oh, what an honor.
To be a tower, my Defender X smashes!
Just be destroyed.
I'm just like watching it wrap to see what takes shape here. I love freehand. I'm not super good at it. Like, I'm still working on it.
Right.
But I love watching it.
Right.
And my helipad is going to be an excuse to try some more.
To challenge yourself.
Especially trying to, like, if I want to put the H with, like, the nice circle around it.
Right.
I'm going to have to... But luckily, because it's plastic card, I can do a really thin layer of primer. Like, I don't have to go ham on it. And then I can kind of etch the circle in there with, like a small compass or something like that, so that it's nice and round, and then it looks kind of like it's inlaid a little bit.
It's a good idea.
Riker says, Freedom Core. I like the little wrench. Get the little wrench. So is this like a tool manufacturer?
Yeah. Put a little wrench on there.
Striker says the Falling Sky Insurance Company.
Kemp Crematorium. You kill them, we grill them. No. You know what we need? We need billboards. I want some billboards.
Another great use for plastic card. You'd have to get really thin plastic card depending on what you're putting it on, though.
It's true.
I think we could do, but I think I could make a billboard.
Put a billboard on the top of this building, easy. Because you can make it look old and janky.
Steve's Machine Shop.
We should just call that this Deus Ex Machina.
There you go. Bloop. Little machine shop.
Dun, 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 dun.
There we go. I think that's it for today. Whoa, was that?
It's
that goes in.
lunchtime.
These all came from this pair, right? I bring these up. Just my Thamar Black. Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.
All right, I think that's it for today. We painted for an hour. It's time for lunch.
It is, in fact, time to lunch.
So remember, every Tuesday at Privateer Press, we do the weekly Rumble. Every Wednesday, we do the Dev Chat. Every Thursday. I was going to say Friday for some reason. Every Thursday. Get your paint on. And the first... No. What?
Generally, the first Friday of the month we do Primecast. Unfortunately, this particular week and next week, my hosts and most of the people that I have on Primecast are out of town for various business-related and personal-related stuff. So Primecast is going to be a little bit late this month. It'll probably be the third Friday.
Makes sense. Sure. So join us every
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 10 a.m.
10 a.m. for your daily dose of Privateer Press, madcap, mayhem, madness, and marshmallow mercenary miscreants. Marshmallow mercenary miscreants. I nailed it.
That's pretty good. Stan Lee would be proud of that.
What was that?
Stan Lee would be proud of that alliteration. Just
I like alliterations.
Yeah,
they're very
good.
fun.
All right, folks.
Josh, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Ba-dum-bum, 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 ba-dum-bum.